A Forest Service ranger truck rolled up my driveway, waving papers, saying my new fence violated an HOA order I'd never heard of. I own 40 acres in Montana. No gate, no clubhouse. Yet somehow Karen from 3 miles away claimed jurisdiction over my land.
I'm Dale Whitmore.
44. A widowed rancher raising 2 teenage daughters. Rebuilding our life after my wife's passing 2 years ago. 6 months earlier, a shiny Bridger Ridge Homeowners Association mailer appeared, claiming authority over ranch parcels bordering their new subdivision. I ignored it. My deed predated their development by 30 years, and Montana law protects agricultural land from most HOA overreach. Karen Voss, the association president, started patrolling the county road daily, photographing properties, leaving passive-aggressive notes about community standards. Neighbors warned me she'd bullied 3 families into expensive fines using intimidation, forged paperwork, and threats of frivolous lawsuits. I began building a simple split-rail fence to keep elk from trampling my daughter's garden and marking our property line. Karen appeared uninvited, clipboard in hand, declaring my fence style unapproved and demanding I halt construction immediately. I calmly explained my land wasn't part of her HOA, showing her the recorded plat map proving my boundaries. She sneered, insisting everything within 5 miles fell under her association's expanded jurisdiction, a claim with 0 legal basis. I finished the fence anyway, and within days a certified letter threatened liens, fines, and forced removal of my property. I called the county recorder's office, confirming no HOA covenant existed on my parcel, only Karen's self-appointed authority. Karen escalated, telling neighbors I was hostile, unstable, and dangerous, poisoning opinions before I'd even spoken with most of them. My eldest daughter, Callie, came home crying. Kids at school repeated rumors that our family was squatting on stolen land. I confronted Karen at a community meeting. She smiled sweetly, denying ever-spreading rumors, calling me confused in front of everyone. Someone slashed 2 of my truck tires that night. Karen's SUV had been seen idling near my driveway earlier. I filed a police report, but the sheriff said without proof. There was nothing actionable, just my word against hers. Karen then filed a false complaint claiming my fence blocked emergency access, triggering a county code enforcement inspection. The inspector found nothing wrong, but the visit cost me a full workday and reignited neighborhood whispers about my violations. My propane delivery got mysteriously rerouted after Karen, who volunteered at the co-op, allegedly flagged my account as disputed. I discovered she'd been forging HOA meeting minutes, inventing votes that never happened to justify her escalating demands. A twist. Karen wasn't even elected president. Her term expired 18 months ago, yet she'd hidden that from everyone. I gathered old newsletters proving the board never held a proper re-election, meaning her authority was entirely fabricated. Emboldened, I sent a formal letter to remaining board members, questioning Karen's legitimacy and requesting an actual vote. Karen intercepted my letter somehow, then accused me publicly of harassing the board and threatening community safety. My youngest, Emma, asked why the ranger truck kept driving past our house slowly, staring like we'd done something wrong. I learned Karen's husband worked part-time for the Forest Service, explaining the strange, unofficial visits that weren't real inspections. That's the second twist. Those ranger trucks weren't enforcing federal law, just Karen using her husband's uniform for intimidation. For 2 weeks, things quieted. Karen seemed to back off, and I hoped the nightmare was finally winding down. I focused on harvest season, spending evenings teaching Callie and Emma to mend fence posts, rebuilding some normalcy together. A kind neighbor, Ruth, quietly shared that other families were secretly documenting Karen's behavior, gathering evidence for months. I started keeping my own detailed log, dates, times, photos, every interaction, every threat, every strange visit near my property. The calm shattered when Karen filed a lien against my property with the county, claiming unpaid association dues I never owed. My bank flagged the lien during a refinance application, freezing my loan and threatening the ranch's entire financial stability. I hired an attorney, Marisol Reyes, who took one look and called Karen's paperwork borderline fraudulent, frankly laughable. Karen doubled down, showing up with the real ranger truck again, claiming a wildlife corridor violation tied to my fence. This time an actual ranger, embarrassed, admitted Karen had called in a false emergency report to get him there. Twist 3. The ranger quietly told me Karen had done this before, targeting at least 2 other landowners. Marisol filed a formal complaint against Karen for impersonating authority and abusing emergency services for personal vendettas. Karen retaliated by mailing every neighbor a flyer branding me a violent squatter threatening community safety and property values. My daughters begged me to just take down the fence, terrified of more harassment, more stares, more whispered accusations. I refused, telling them some fights matter more than comfort, that giving up would only embolden a bully further. Ruth called me late one night, voice shaking, saying she'd found county documents proving Karen forged her own HOA charter. The original Bridger Ridge HOA never legally existed. Karen invented it entirely, filing fake paperwork years before I ever moved in. Twist 4. Dozens of families had been paying dues for years into an account Karen controlled completely alone. Realizing this wasn't just about my fence, it was a years-long financial fraud hiding in plain sight. Marisol contacted the county attorney's office, presenting evidence of fraud, forged documents, and impersonation of law enforcement authority. Karen,
sans signe danger,
suddenly offered to drop everything if I quietly removed my fence and stayed silent about it. I refused her deal, telling her the truth mattered more than convenience, and handed everything to the investigators instead. Word spread fast. Neighbors who'd paid Karen for years began demanding answers, showing up furious at her front door. The county attorney announced a formal investigation, subpoenaing Karen's HOA bank records and years of falsified meeting minutes. Karen tried fleeing responsibility, blaming her husband, then the confusing bylaws, then finally claiming she'd meant well all along. A community meeting was called not by Karen, but by furious residents demanding transparency, restitution, and Karen's immediate removal. I was asked to speak, standing before neighbors who'd once believed Karen's lies about me being dangerous and unstable. Callie stood beside me, holding our fence line photos, proof we'd only ever protected our own legal property. Karen arrived uninvited, still insisting she had authority, still refusing to admit any wrongdoing, even facing the whole room. Someone in the crowd shouted that they'd lost their retirement savings to her fake, special assessment fees, gasps rippling through everyone. The county attorney entered, formally announcing charges: fraud, impersonating a government official, and filing false police reports. Karen's face drained white as deputies stepped forward, reading her rights aloud in front of every neighbor she terrorized. She screamed it was a misunderstanding, that everyone had misjudged her intentions. But the room stayed cold and unmoved. Her own husband, silent until now, finally spoke, admitting he'd warned her repeatedly to stop before it went this far. Twist 5. He revealed Karen had done this exact scheme at their previous home in Wyoming, forcing their move here. Neighbors who'd feared and avoided me suddenly apologized, realizing every rumor about Dangerous Dale had been Karen's invention. Ruth hugged my daughters, tears in her eyes, saying their courage in gathering evidence had finally exposed years of abuse. Deputies led Karen out in handcuffs, her clipboard authority meaningless against real law enforcement she'd only ever pretended to control. The fake ranger visits, the forged charter, the stolen dues, everything collapsed the moment truth outweighed her carefully built lies. I stood on my own land, fence intact, watching the woman who'd tormented my family finally face real consequences. My phone buzzed non-stop. Reporters, neighbors, even Marisol, all confirming the case against Karen was airtight, undeniable, and devastating. For the first time in months, I breathed easily, knowing my daughters were finally safe from Karen's manufactured chaos. The county announced restitution proceedings, promising every defrauded family would recover their stolen dues from Karen's frozen accounts. Karen's attorney tried negotiating a plea, but prosecutors, backed by mountains of evidence, refused to offer any leniency whatsoever. The Real Forest Service issued a public apology, clarifying no legitimate rangers had ever authorized her fraudulent property visits. Months later, Karen pled guilty to multiple felony counts, facing years in prison and permanent loss of any authority. Our community rebuilt trust slowly, holding real elections, real transparency, finally free from one woman's manufactured tyranny. I finished mending my fence at sunset, daughters laughing beside me, knowing the land and our peace were truly ours.